And for this hour, as much as we don't want to, we're going to talk about the weather. We're going to do that with a fellow well known around here. He was on television for many, many years. Now the chief meteorologist of MLive. We say good morning to Mark Torregrossa. Mark, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing good. The beautiful thing about my job at times is when the weather is least favorable, I look out 2 weeks and I can see the end.
Oh, good. 2 weeks, so we can hold you to that.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, you hold me to everything anyway.
Yeah, that's right. So let me ask Mark. I have made a statement that this, in some ways, not this particular storm that we're about to weather, but in some ways, the winter weather this season has been more like it used to be in Michigan. Am I far wrong about that?
No, I don't think. No, I think you're definitely correct because in the last, decade or two, we've had some non-winters that have really felt very mild and have been.
Yeah.
So this is, but we also have to remember this has been pretty variable. Now, as we get into the next week and only have single digits most days for highs, if we're lucky, then it's going to start to compound the fact that it's colder than normal. But yeah, you're right. This is going to be the coldest winter in quite some time. I don't know exactly. I know that 2012 December into 2013 was very cold. So it's probably going to be about the coldest since then.
Yeah. We had a caller this morning wanting me to ask you why it appears to him anyway that southeast Michigan seems to be colder than other places in the state.
Okay, that's a great question. Well, can you believe it? I looked yesterday. Lake Michigan still has a large pocket of surface water off the coast of Muskegon, all the way down to the south end, over toward Milwaukee, Waukegan, Chicago, of 40-degree water.
Oh, wow.
So over in Wisconsin, it's minus 25. That minus 25-degree air travels across, a large area of 40-degree water, warms up. So in the southwest part of the state, sometimes it's hard to get below zero if there's a west wind. That cold actually sneaks around the south end of Lake Michigan and comes back up to Jackson and then into Ann Arbor and the Detroit area in cases like this.
So there is a logical reason.
There is a logical reason. And one of the very watch-out type weather conditions I always try to emphasize is the I-69 lake effect snow band and the I-94 lake effect snow band. So over on the east side of the state here, we think, it's crazy out of the west, heavy lake effect. You drive down, you hit I-69. Classic example this morning, one of my, viewers, commenters, whatever we call them nowadays, just got off of I-75 at Grand Blanc, no visibility, because I was seeing on the radar that I-69 band, it's just angled just right. That cold air going around the south end of Lake Michigan and then coming back to the northeast causes a squeeze play in the air, and it causes that band of lake effect to develop.
So let's talk about this particular storm. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Weren't we in a La Nina year? And has it not had impact, or is this the impact from La Nina?
Yeah, this La Nina is just one of the pieces of the puzzle. There are a lot of pieces to this puzzle. Imagine cold pockets of water somewhere in the Pacific, somewhere in the Atlantic. Imagine warm pockets. La Nina, El Nino is just one of the features. It's a very dominant feature in the winter if it's strong. And what a La Nina winter is, we found, is people thought we were just doing a cop-out on the extended forecast of the winter, but a La Nina winter is highly variable in temperature, meaning you could have 2 to 4 weeks warm spell go to 2 to 4 weeks extreme cold.
Dude,
Think about this.
that's what we're having.
December started very cold. Thought, oh gosh, this is going to be a long one. And then, and by the way, I am a winter fan, but with every trip around the sun, I'm a little less of a winter fan. So I get that, you know. But you know, the warmth hit after the cold in December, and we were quite warm for a stretch.
Yeah.
Now we're extremely cold. What has happened is, and this happened in 2012, so that's kind of why I'm going back to the winter of 2012-13. The polar vortex
Right.
is normally up at the top of the globe, spinning around, and just all of the forces around the globe, not just La Nina, El Nino, but you know, you can get a blocking high pressure in Russia or over Greenland, and that causes what I like to call atmospheric constipation. And then the polar vortex flips off of the polar region. A lot of times it goes over to Europe and Asia and Russia first, and then it dumbbells back over the pole, over the North Pole, and comes down somewhat into the eastern part of Canada. In this case, the center of the polar vortex tonight is going to be over northern Lake Superior.
So we're
That's our south.
so we're feeling not only the effects of this huge winter storm, but also the polar vortex at the same time.
The polar vortex is an upper level feature that creates the surface winter storm. Because our polar vortex is centered over us, Lake Superior, the Arctic cold is making it all the way down into the mid-Atlantic and, you know, into
Right.
the southeast. They're going to have a major winter storm, major snowstorm, 6 to 12 inches. Ice could be, you know, half inch, maybe 2 inches in some spots. And what I'm seeing also is that this storm is drifting north, and because we're so cold, the storm will bring us a northeast wind. What lies to the northeast of Saginaw Bay City and the Thumb? Lake Huron. So we're going to actually get into a lake-enhanced snow shield on Sunday into Sunday night and early Monday. And in Saginaw, it's probably like 1 or 2 inches of snow, but in Detroit and Ann Arbor, kind of a sneaky snow, maybe 3 to 5 inches of
Wow.
fluff.
All right, hang on. I got to take a break, and we'll come back. We're talking to Mark Torregrossa. He is the chief meteorologist for MLive, talking a little weather this morning. Let me ask you how you slept last night, because, you know, in this day and age, we're asked to do more for less. You go to bed, and you really need to get a quality good night's sleep. You spend about a third of your life in bed. You should spend at least a third of your life there. And you can get that quality sleep with a quality mattress from Sanitary Mattress. Now, you can visit all the so-called sleep stores, or you can rest assured the mattress you're using is manufactured right here in the Great Lakes Bay region to your specifications. Your time in bed may be cut short by today's demanding world, but you can still get a quality good night's sleep on a Sanitary Mattress. They feature 1-hour window delivery of your mattress to your home, and if you have an RV or a boat, Sanitary Mattress will custom make a mattress for you, something the box stores can't do. Visit the Sanitary Mattress Factory and Showroom at 5343 Janes Road in Saginaw, just east of the Harry Brown Airport. Visit them online at sanitarymattress.com or call them at 989-753-1757. Sanitary Mattress, serving the Great Lakes Bay region since 1935.
For 60 years,
So we know that it can rain in Flint, freezing rain in Clio, heavy snow in Saginaw, and nothing, you know, in Pinconning. And in that case, back then, it would just pick one type of weather for that 45 mile by 45 mile square. Now we have models that run every hour, give us hour by hour. Our longest models go out 10, 15 days, pretty good reliability to 7, 8 days. And the resolution a 1.5 mile by 1.5 mile square on our highest resolution model. So just think how many squares and how many little pieces of information we get on a different precipitation type in 1.5 mile by 1.5 mile that would fit in a 45 mile square. So it's come along. It continues to come along. We're not 100% accurate. We're in a layman's terms, what I always tell people is 10 years ago, we probably, quote unquote, blew one snow forecast a year. Now I would say we probably blow one snow forecast in localized spots maybe every 2 or 3 years. So that's what we want to get down, is to never blow a forecast. That's going to be hard. AI in the future, we've had AI. Our modeling is AI. Now another layer of AI. And what's it going to do? It's going to make it even more accurate at all parts, short, medium, long term. Can it take jobs from meteorology? It's pretty well taken what it can take if the human is still going to be in it. So most TV stations are as low as they can go on meteorologists. Weather service offices, the government weather service offices, because of the enhancements in productivity, have gone from 20 meteorologists in an office. Remember, weather doesn't stop. It's 365 and a quarter days, 24 hours. So you got to have 2 or 3 people always working. So 20 people in office is now down to like 14 because of the efficiencies of the computerization. So I don't think we can go much lower if the human being is still going to be in it.
And I mean, it's like most things. I mean, you need that human being to do the final interpretation and the final what ifs.
I think you do, because the weather data is interpretable to you. You can look at your app and say, okay, it says it's dropping below 32 at 3 p.m. and rain changing to snow. And you can interpret that and you say, I better, I don't want to drive on I-75. I better be home by 2 or whatever. But the human being can still, I believe, bring the data to life and give you what it's really like. Here's a great example. So this morning, one of the managers at MLive messaged me, hey, we want to send this reporter from Grand Rapids to Traverse City for a meeting. What is it like? And I said, and she said, it's showing light snow, 1 or 2 inches. That's not a big deal. And what's it like? I said, this is not one of those cases where the weather shows how bad it is. 1 or 2 inches, small flakes, they don't plow well, salt doesn't work, it's going to be near zero, falling temperatures, wind gusts to 30, and a wind chill tomorrow of the dangerous minus 25. There will be no safe travel for about a week. There just won't be.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to take all that
another thing we need to talk about, the massive pileups.
Yeah. Well, they just had a 100-car pileup.
Yes. And we have those all the time in Michigan. And I've been contacted by MDOT. I've been contacted by the Weather Service. I talked to the Weather Service about some thoughts. My wife had a great thought from an average person, and I use my wife as kind of the canary in the coal mine for weather.
Mm-hmm.
And, I started writing on MLive, winter storm warning issued, blizzard conditions likely to follow. I wanted to get that word blizzard out there because I thought it would be, at least on the west side of the state. And the Weather Service did not issue a blizzard warning because it was just below their official criteria. And I told them, my wife said, if there had been a blizzard warning issued, people take that higher. They don't use that.
Well, the word scares them.
Yes. Half the people stay off the road like you should, unless it's a medical emergency or whatever. And they were looking, the Weather Service said they were looking at some of those cameras, and one of their friends was in the accident, And some of the vehicles, some of them very large, towing trailers, i.e. semis, we're still going 70 and 80 miles an hour.
Yeah.
So I told the Weather Service and MDOT, I said, us meteorologists, we did a great job. We've been warning people for 3 or 4 days, and they still get on the road, and you can't stop stupid.
No, and that's the thing about, you see all the time, I've seen, four-wheel drive vehicles off in the center because they fell off the road into the center median. What they realize is they can go fast. What they don't realize is they can't stop any faster than anybody else.
Right. So, other places, other states do some interesting things. Like you get into the South, and if there's, if there's some slick roads, they'll take and have the state police go out on the side of the road and turn their flashers, turn their lights on every 5 miles. And people are like, oh, there's police. I better slow down.
Yep.
I think we could do a lot. I think one solution that I'm trying to suggest to MDOT is let's get these big video billboards up on the southwest corner of the state, and then we've got a ton of road cameras out there. And let's, someone pick out where the roads get bad so people can see, oh, wow, 5 miles ahead, there's a blizzard.
Well,
I better slow down.
Here's the other thing. The other thing you can do with electronic signage, if you will, you can impose a lower speed limit. You can say,
that was another one.
Yeah, you can say slow down 35 miles an hour, whatever.
Start writing tickets. I'm not for tickets.
I understand.
I'm not for tickets, but
safety is first.
Yeah.
You go out west. You go out west into some of the passes, and they literally have barricades across Route 80, for example. When you can't drive it, they close it. Period.
Right. Or you got to have chains.
You have to have chains. Yeah, you have to have all that. Yep.
Yeah. I think, again, I took how was our forecast, and I improved, and I told you, we blew one snowstorm a year 10 years ago. Now we blow one snowstorm localized, very localized. It's only a county or two that's off now. We just had one the other day in Oakland County. Where did 6 inches come from? We were only supposed to get 2. We blow it every 3 years. One good way that we could measure if we're helping the large pileups is if we could go a year without pileups in a situation that we knew typically would cause it. Then we'd know that the steps that were taken, and in the end, you just cannot stop everybody. And I'm not for this. My dad was a truck driver, and some states back then would have radar on the road, and then they would mail you a ticket. 2 weeks later, you get a ticket. Oh, the camera shot me, and I was doing 70 and a 50, and here's a ticket. If they did something like that in the southwest corner, most of the problem is coming out of Chicago through Indiana, clear roads. Hey, we're fine. Let's just keep blasting away, and then they hit that first lake effect band within feet in the Kalamazoo area or the Holland area or something like that.
Yeah. All right, hang on, Mark. We'll take a break, come back. We're talking to Mark Torregrossa, MLive Chief Meteorologist, talking about the weather. And we've talked about this band of weather coming at us. We'll go down the road a little bit and look at the future and see what it looks like after these notes. And I'll tell you what, if you have any questions for Mark, give us a call, 989-752-6111.
Gotta go.
I should start getting on the government and say, why? It's just a simple weather model, but I get that question all the time. Now, I will tell you one thing. They tweak our models. They tweak the GFS, the main U.S. model, all the time for improvements. It's government. So does the government improvement always turn out to be an improvement? No. You know the answer. But their focus on the GFS model is the position of the landfalling hurricanes and the strength of hurricanes. Probably the most important forecast that we would have nationwide for the most part. And they have tweaked it so that the GFS model is just about exactly as good as the European model on long-range hurricane forecasting, 3, 4, 5, 6 days out. You're talking about if you're off and you evacuate, the East Coast, you evacuate millions of people. So they've tweaked it for that, but it's okay for us. But I rarely look at it even. It's so bad. I rarely look at it out in the long term.
Wow. All right, let's talk about long
term.
And
it's not bad.
Yeah.
It's not bad. It's good, but it's not as good as the European.
Used to be 2 or 3 days. After that was long term. What's long term now?
I would say 8, 9 days.
Okay. So we're sitting in this pocket where we're going to freeze our butts off here. We may get some snow, and parts of the country are going to get some very heavy snow. How long does this last, and when do we break it?
I'm targeting the first few days of February. I think the first freezing temperature, 32 degrees, comes in the Saginaw area February 2nd. Maybe I'm a little bit too fast, maybe the 3rd or the 4th. Remember, we talked about La Nina, and what is it, cold or warm or snowy or what? Well, remember I told you it's variable. We could, I don't know that this is going to happen, but we could very well flip-flop. And what we're seeing from the European model in its ensemble mode, which means they tweak the European model and run it 51 times and then average it. What I'm seeing is in the first week of February, we go to a few degrees warmer than normal, 2 to 5 degrees warmer than normal. Now, here's another shot in the arm. I got a couple of shots in the arm for you, Art and everybody, if you're not really into this kind of winter weather. I always say, no, always melts. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Always. So we know that's coming. So it's just a matter of waiting of the time. And then the other shot in the arm is that this ensemble of 51 tweaks is a very stable way to look out into the future 10 and 15 days. And if it's showing something kind of steady and consistent and demonstrative, it will probably happen. And it's showing that we warm up. And the actual average high temperature starts to go up in the Saginaw area about February 2nd. That means the sun is gaining enough power to take us from an average high of 29 over the last 30 years to an average high of 30 degrees. And in the month of February, we gain about 5 degrees of heating from the sunshine. We end it with an average high of 35. So I think February starts in the 30s. And I'm intrigued. It could be a mild February, but I do think that we probably, winter certainly will not be over. I do think that we have another batch of cold that comes down sometime in February. It probably will not be as cold as tomorrow and Saturday when we're down. Saturday morning, we could be down to -10, -15 or so. And the other thing I would say is that what's well established right now in this current pattern is a fairly active storm track out of the Pacific. So once we get out of the deep cold, we could actually go into the snowstorms in February, the ice storms, the mess.
Yeah, March is unpredictable for ice storms, isn't it?
It is, yeah, it is. Fortunately, we don't have a lot of those around here, but we certainly can. I mean, we had one in northern Michigan. My point is, right now, the storm track, because we're wholeheartedly in the Arctic air, the storm track has shoved to the south for the next couple of storms. That's very common, late January, early February. But as we moderate, the storm track lifts north, and it's smack dab over Michigan. So we will get through all of this. Use common sense, safety, slow down.
Yeah.
For the next week, thing to put in everybody's head is that it might take you double the time to get to someplace just because of the shiny, icy patches. Salt doesn't work at this temperature.
Yeah. All right, hang on. One more segment. Last segment coming up with Mark Torregrossa, MLive Chief Meteorologist.
Are you overdue for
Live chief meteorologist. We had a caller ask a question, and I'm going to expand the question a little bit here, Mark. This caller asked, how much do the 5G communications towers affect the weather, if at all? And I'm going to add to that, how much do these big windmill farms impact the weather?
Mm-hmm. In the grand scheme of things of a storm, I don't believe either of those would have any impact. On the windmills, it's been proven that they do change the lightning pattern in an area, and that makes sense. You got these big things sticking up in the sky, so they attract lightning. But those two things really, in my scientific estimation, would have no way of affecting the weather on a large scale.
As far as you know, if you look at the colleges and universities around the country that teach meteorology as a degree, is it still attracting a lot of people?
It's attracting actually too many, I believe.
I was waiting for that.
It's not a high number of people that do it. Here's Michigan. I'm just going to say, there might be 100 of us, 200 in the state of Michigan. Mm-hmm. How many radio DJs are there? How many accountants are there? How many police officers are there? Thousands. And so when I went to college, I went to Northern Illinois University in the 80s. We had 15 students, 4 professors. They always said meteorology was the most expensive degree for that college. I could see that. Recently, in the last few years, I went to Central Michigan University and talked to the students. Still a great occupation. If you are totally into weather and you know all the pitfalls, you're going to have to move, you're going to have lousy hours, and you're going to make half the pay of an engineer, and you're going to be in the same classes for the first 2 years. If you're into all those, you go for it. But the Central Michigan crowd was probably 50 to 100 students. Yeah. And there is a college in every state like that, and it just does not support that many.
Well, I mean,
most meteorologists come out nowadays and do something else, sidebar, become a math teacher, whatever.
Mm-hmm. And we also understand a lot of meteorologists are not in the public eye; they're behind the scenes. And there's a lot of scientific work for meteorologists predicting pollution and all that. I remember the days when talking to you and others, and the big news was what was going to happen with the stack emissions off the plant from consumers. And that was all part of meteorology.
It is, but that's still, if you got a firm, they might employ 10 meteorologists.
Yep.
Not 100 or 1,000. So it's a tough call when a parent contacts me, says my son or daughter really interested in meteorology. What do you think? I'm like, fascinating. Do they just eat and breathe it? And do they know the pitfalls? Will they move away from you for 10 or 15 years before they get back toward their home state? Will they work on Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve?
Sure.
Here's another thing. So when I graduated, late 80s, engineers in the same classes, calculus, all this stuff, first 2 years. Then they go to engineering classes. We go to meteorology. 1989, a meteorologist at a TV station starting on the weekends made about $25,000. 1989. Engineer made about $35,000 to start. We thought that was great pay. Wow, the engineers start at $35,000. Awesome. Today, meteorologist comes out, goes to a TV station for weekends, maybe if they're lucky, maybe 40 grand.